Prepare to be incinerated. Hello and welcome to my review of the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 4. If you're interested in watching any other reviews as part of my Doctor Who marathon, click up in the corner now and there'll be a link to every single one of them, all put in a playlist, especially for you. This video is a little bit later than I wanted it to be. Basically, we're moving out at the moment, so everything's a bit hectic. The next video is probably going to take a lot longer to come round as well, but I'm going to get it out as soon as I can, basically. The Nightmare Man. It started out quite well. It started out very creepy, especially for the Sarah Jane Adventures. I think a lot of it having to do with Luke's anxiety dreams about leaving home and going to uni and stuff. I think that part of it seemed very realistic. And obviously from that you got the sci-fi sort of Doctor Who-ish turn from that, which in writing seems really well. But again, it's one of those where it's got the potential but it doesn't quite fulfill it. When it gets to part 2 it gets very cheesy, very silly. I'm not quite sure how they actually defeated the Nightmare Man at the end, other than the fact that Rani, Luke and Clyde managed to get into each other's dreams and held hands, and apparently them holding hands destroys the Nightmare Man. Overall, the story was alright. The execution just wasn't as good as it probably could have been. The Vault of Secret. This is such a fun little story to watch. It's really, really fun to watch. Obviously, the Pyramid on Mars thing is a reference to Pyramids of Mars. I like how Geeta had a bigger part in this story again, just like she did in the first story with Androvax, Prisoner of the Jadoon. I think Geeta's a really interesting character and it's really nice to see her explored even more, even if it is just for comedic purposes. I loved all the pop culture references, so obviously the Men in Black, that's the biggest one, but then obviously you've got ones to Terminator, James Bond and Dragon's Den. There is a really big conspiracy theory in real life about the Men in Black, so it's really interesting to see the Who-niverse's take on that. But like I said, overall, like, the story wasn't amazing, but it was just fun, and that's what the Sarah Jane Adventures I think should be. Fun, not necessarily childish, obviously it's got to be suitable for children, but just make it exciting in a child-friendly way, and this really did that. Death of the Doctor. Obviously, a lot of people were really looking forward to the Doctor being in it. Yeah, fair enough, that's exciting, seeing the Doctor in a spin-off. But for me, and probably for a lot of other classic Doctor Who fans, the biggest part of this was seeing Jo Grant, or Jo Jones, return in the Who-niverse, because obviously she hasn't been seen since The Green Death back in 1973 or 74. Overall, it felt very similar to School Reunion, in that the actual story at hand wasn't the best, but the fan service really made it so much better. Obviously, with Jo Grant's return, you get a lot of references to classic Doctor Who: Peladon, Metebelis 3, Zygons, Drashigs, Ogrons, Azal, Axons, Liz Shaw and the Brigadier. I feel like Katie Manning slipped straight back into her role as Jo Grant. It was really lovely seeing Eleven interact with both Sarah and Jo. The scene at the end with all the memories being shown, it wasn't necessarily just the end either, they had a lot of memories shown earlier on in the story as well, and it was really, really nice. It really sort of sums up the show's history, which I really, really like. I love the way so many companions were given a nice story towards the end of this. Obviously Ian and Barbara end up getting married as well. Obviously you don't see them and apparently they haven't aged or whatever. Yeah, I really love the story, mainly for the fact that Jo Grant returned though. The Empty Planet. It really shows how great Clyde and Rani are on their own without Sarah. The whole way through though, this is probably my biggest pet hate, not only about this story but with a lot of other stories as part of the Sarah Jane Adventures. It's convenience. There's so many convenient moments in this. It was quite a clever way of getting Rani and Clyde stuck on Earth throughout this though, the fact that they were grounded by the Jadoon. But again, I suppose if anything, The Empty Planet is just going to be one of those fun stories like The Vault of Secrets. Lost in Time. It's a very similar plot to the Key to Time series, and I suppose the Keys of Marinus as well. The fact that this whole story they have to go to find little bits, otherwise shit kicks off. I love how Sarah, Rani and Clyde all have their own little subplots, and they carry those subplots really, really well, I think. A lot of the stories seem very educational, especially the bits that included Lady Jane Grey, and I suppose to an extent as well, Clyde's little story with the, set in 1941. I think in Clyde's little story where the teacher turned out to be a spy seemed very realistic, and it just goes to show that during that time you couldn't really trust anyone. Anyone that you'd known for years could end up being a spy, and I feel like that showcased that really well. I love the way Clyde used his phone playing Tiny Temper to get himself out of that situation with the Nazis. It was quite clever or convenient, the fact that the key got brought back to Sarah at the end. But yeah, overall, good story. I remember enjoying it a lot more than I did when I was watching it this time, but I still enjoyed it. And then finally, goodbye Sarah Jane Smith. The idea of someone else doing what Sarah Jane does is a really, really good story to explore. The effects of Sarah losing her brain tissue were, to be honest, heartbreaking. The threat was so good, and it was so big for a kids show as well. The whole story really felt like a finale, not only just for the series, but I feel like this could have easily been the finale to the whole show. And with this story, I mentioned it in The Empty Planet, this story really doesn't rely on convenience. They defeat Ruby with their intelligence, and it just works so well, and I really like it. I think the fact that a lot of other stories rely on convenience to finish off the story, it really makes this stand out even more. And it also really went to show how good Luke, Clyde and Rani are as a team without Sarah as well. But overall, Goodbye Sarah Jane Smith was a very, very good story, I think. Easily one of the best ever of the Sarah Jane Adventures. A lot of it just came down to the threat being so big and the effects Ruby had on Sarah being so heartbreaking, and it's just really good. But yeah, so that's the series in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed the review. Like I said, my next review probably won't be out for a little while yet. It'll be Doctor Who Series 6 though, so hopefully that's something to look forward to. If you are looking forward to it, subscribe to my channel, like the video, follow my social medias, and I'll see you in that next video, whenever that will be, hopefully very soon. Goodbye.